They said, no, let's just sell her as a slave. We'll sell her to some, tribe down in South America and get money from her, get some gold. And they're all like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. Can you imagine? I mean, this is the kind of family that he was in. How would you like to be a part of that family, is what I'm saying. Sold as a slave. I mean, God had, and again, I want you to start out, but think about that. I'm going to get a ring in this Baptist bread, that huge disappointment. When God's giving you all this promise, giving you these dreams, you've given them this special name, you've been special treatment, from your dad. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get an inheritance. And so there's a lot of faith. God's going to do something with my life. And then suddenly the bottom drops out. And his family hates him. Even his father says, you think we're going to worship you? What are you saying, son? But he just observed. He had a lot of adversity. He was sold as a slave, and then later on, he was falsely accused and sent to prison. But here's where the faith comes in. Faith comes in, I know what I am. I know what I'm supposed to be, and nothing's going to change my course. Amen? And so Joseph responds. I want you to see in Genesis 37, verse 13. And Israel said to Joseph, do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said unto him, here am I. Faithfulness. There's so much to be said about just being faithful. Doing what we're supposed to do despite all the opposition. He already knew his brothers envied him and hated him. He already knew about all the jealousy and, of course, the special treatment that he was getting. It was kind of a dysfunctional family, wouldn't you say? To know that your father loves you more than the rest of them, and that's a very awkward feeling. And so he knows, he's thinking, oh, you're going to send me into the wilderness to go find my brethren? You know what? Potentially they could kill me out there, which he would have supposed, rightly. And he says, here am I. That's Isaiah's response, right? Who's going to go for me? The Lord said. He said, here am I. And so the Lord said, okay, you're going to go preach, and they're not going to listen. And Isaiah's response, how long? I mean, this guy, faithful, right? And so Joseph responds by being faithful, even though he knew that he was hated. That's number one. I'm going to give you 5 things, all right, about his life that displays his faith. He was faithful even while being hated. Secondly, he was faithful in the pit. You shouldn't write on the hand. He was faithful in the pit. The other things I mentioned to you tonight, they're all mentioned in the scripture, but not this one. There's no more mention of it. When the brethren came back and they got the food and Joseph saved them, Joseph had a lot of compassion. Remember, he was crying when he saw them. Do you think that maybe it would have crossed your mind, here's my chance to teach them a lesson? Maybe not get even, maybe not even punish them, but just to put them on a good guilt trip? Would you feel tempted to do that? You're suddenly now in this position of authority, but I want you to think about this pit experience. You're thrown into a pit with thinking, I'm going to die down here, and left there. And yet there's no mention of it. To me, that just further indicates his level of faith. And that doesn't just mean faith. I know that God's going to do something with my life, but I'm going to do something with my life with God. Do you understand the difference? It's not, I know that God is going to do something for my life. It's my life is for Him. Yeah, that's a big difference. Everyone has these dreams and aspirations of what I'm going to be and what my life is going to be like. But my question is, what if it doesn't turn out that way? What are you going to do then? The dream of the career and the husband, the big house, or whatever, a small house and children. Well, what if life doesn't turn out that way? What are you going to do then? Faith is not have a dream that God's going to do in your life, like the dream that he had. I wonder if Joseph, when he was in the pit, thinking maybe this dream will never come true, but yet I'll be faithful to him. See, that's what faith really is. It's a firm knowledge of who God is and what my response to Him should be, and so therefore I will be faithful. And I think personally, it's remarkable that there's never another mention of the pit. So he's faithful when he's hated. Number 2, he's faithful in the pit. Number 3, he's faithful as a slave. In Genesis chapter 39, in verse 2, so the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. How many slaves do you know that look to be faithful as slaves? I think most tendencies would be to survive, to get by, just do the bare minimum that my master asked me. But even that, he excelled at. Amen? And so what I'm saying to all of us tonight is we're going to find ourselves in situations that we don't like. Right? And our response, do the bare minimum, just squeak by, complain a little bit on the way, or excel where we don't like to be. Isn't that faith? I'm not saying it's easy, but is that faith? Do you like your job? No. But you're the manager, right? You see, that's what I'm talking about. You excel where you're at, even though you're not in the position that you want to be. One of the examples that comes right to my head right away is Will Southworth. I don't know if you find a happier guy. I've heard him tell the joke several times. He said, "Yeah, I do that, but I don't have a leg to stand on." I get it. He laughs. And he's just happy all the time. If he's not in church, you know why? He's not feeling good. His leg's swollen up or something or other. Or he's sick, he's not feeling well. He's got heart issues. He's got the issues with Agent Orange in his body. Last week they were thinking that they may have to amputate the other leg. And he went to the doctor, they found good circulation, so they said, good news. I mean, he's going through stuff. He's got to have all his teeth pulled out at some point because he's got infections up into his jaw that they got to get to, and his teeth are going to lose his teeth. But you would never know that when you talk to him. He's happy. You know that? See, that's practical use of faith, right? It's not just the mountaintop experiences of dividing the Red Sea, but faith is supposed to be for everyday living. And so he was faithful as a slave. He was in a situation he didn't like, but he was faithful anyway. Number 4, he was faithful in prison. In chapter 39, verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison, and the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. And the keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Prospered in prison. He was falsely accused. He didn't hire a lawyer. He didn't complain all the time. You know, he just didn't spend all his time working out so that he could be buff and beat people up when he got out because of his bitterness. But he was faithful. I wonder if part of Joseph's thought process was, God sees where I am. And I don't know why I'm in prison, but God does. And so therefore, I'll just trust him. You think so? I think so. So, what that means for us is sometimes there's going to be some unjust things that are done to us, and we can either text everybody and put it on Facebook and tell our church, pray for me because all these evil things are coming. Or we can say, God, you know what's going on, and trust him by faith. It's an attitude, isn't it? I bet all of you have had some things done to you that were not right. But I'm not sure any of us have gone through what Joseph went through. And we see this continual positive attitude of faith. He was faithful in prison. And then lastly, he was faithful in his calling. In Genesis chapter 41 and verse 37, Genesis 41 and verse 37. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto the word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. But it didn't go to his head. Joseph remained the same humble man of God from the beginning to the end. Right? We know that because when Joseph's brethren came and the thing was revealed, he cried, he wept, he had a soft heart, he had forgiveness. The power had not gone to his head. He could have done anything he wanted to his brother. But he didn't. He did what was right. Some people get, it's like spending, People make $20,000 a year and somehow make it. And then they get a promotion. They were earning $25,000 a year, and they somehow make it by. And then their wife gets a job, and now they're making $40,000 a year. They somehow squeak by still. And then she gets a raise, and they're making $50,000 a year combined, and they somehow still just barely making it. You understand what I'm saying? And I say, how is it that you barely squeak by when you were making 20,000, and now when you're making 50,000 combined, you're still just barely squeaking by? Well, because when you made 20,000, I was content with the car from 1998, and driving that around. But when my wife got a job, we figured we'd get a new car. Oh, what should you get? Well, I got that new Continental, and it's, it's like payments of $399 a month. I got a great deal. Oh,